I think it's incredibly important that we tackle these issues substantively. And I've been very surprised to hear some of the commentary across the other side of the aisle. I heard earlier Republicans saying someone should go to jail for how expensive some drugs are in this country. And I thought I saw a pig flying across the ceiling of this committee room. But where there is common ground, I think we should pursue it, and we should pursue it aggressively. Now, I want to take a step back here and really make sure that we are illustrating this issue in a way that the public can understand. Because if we do that, then I think we can all get on the same page about developing energy towards a solution. So if I'm just an everyday person and I'm getting a prescription from my doctor, and I get that prescription, I take it to my pharmacist, and then all of a sudden I get a bill and I realize that my insurance copay, whether it's for any condition, diabetes, cancer, whatever it may be, it could be $1,000. And before you know it, you're paying your rent check on a medication that you need to save your life. And we need to take a step back and figure out, how did we get here? Especially on drugs like insulin, where there's a public patent and there really is no reason for it to be that expensive. So we see that there's a drug between the drug and you receiving that at a pharmacy. There are several steps. You have your drug manufacturer, which folks call Big Pharma. Then you have your insurer. Those are the areas that I think people understand. Someone makes the drug, someone insures that drug that I can buy it, but then there's someone in the middle. And that is known as a PBM, or a pharmacy benefit manager. Isn't that correct, Mr. Asasi?
Yes.
And so what we see is that the drug manufacturer very often does not sell their medication directly to the pharmacy, or does not sell their medication directly to the insurer, but there is this middle person known as a PBM. And they will set a price, the manufacturer will set a price very high, and the PBM will say, let's make a deal. And they say, if you give me a rebate, then I can make the formulary for the insurance, and I can make sure that your drug gets covered by this insurance. You can sell a lot of your drug, and then, all is well in the world. And that's the general concept, the pitch from the PBM. Isn't that right? Do I have that correct?
There's a few more middlemen, but that's exactly it in a nutshell.
And each step along the way, someone is taking a cut.
Yep.
You've got the manufacturers charging, you've got the PBMs charging, you have insurers, and then before you know it, you're paying a rent check on insulin, which should cost virtually nothing. Now, my question here is that we have to figure out a solution. We have a vicious cycle with the PBMs because they say, if you give me a rebate, I'll pass it on to the insurers. So the drug manufacturer says, great, I'll make my price even higher. So I'll say that my list price for a drug is $5,000, so then I can charge you $1,000 or even more. And I'll make you seem like you're getting a deal so that you'll put me on a higher level in the formulary. And all about this process is focused on who's making how much money, instead of what people are getting the treatment that they need. Now, I'm very curious, genuinely, to hear from the other side of the aisle and some of our witnesses here today. Everyone okay over there? From the other side of the aisle and some of our witnesses here today about solutions. I'll be candid about mine. I believe that the profit-seeking motive in the pharmaceutical industry is out of control, and I think that it is what is hurting people. I personally believe that if you have a public entity that does not have a profit motive, like Medicare, negotiate these prices with the manufacturers, including the transparency that we see, along with other entities like TRICARE, Medicaid, et cetera, then we can get an actual fair price for these medications that includes their manufacturing and R&D costs, but will not finance stock buybacks and other types of predatory behavior. And then I believe that Medicare should expand its eligibility so that people can buy into at-cost public insurance. Now, I understand that not everyone in this room agrees with that assessment. I am very curious to hear about any other proposals, because I think at the core, what we're talking about is an extreme, out-of-control profit motive that has virtually no guardrails, and that Congress doesn't impose guardrails on for a whole bunch of other dark money reasons. And so I'm interested to hear from Dr. Atkins, Mr. Asasi, Dr. Duane, and Mr. Baker. In addition, we've heard about things like eliminating rebates. We've heard about things about increasing transparency. I think those are very important steps. I'm curious about what other solutions, whether broadly systemic or more tailored, that you all would propose to this committee that we consider in order to help actually solve this problem and go beyond talking about it.
I just wanted to say really quickly, you put your finger right on it. At the end of the day, the only reason PBMs exist is because we don't have the ability to fairly negotiate with Big Pharma. So we came up with PBMs, and I want to be really clear, this idea of repealing the rebate, this was under the Trump administration, the CBO scored that at $170 billion in cost, because PBMs are actually saving us money, right? But the fundamental problem, first of all, as we've heard about, one is in Medicare, PBMs have to operate under what's called a medical loss ratio, where we limit the amount of money they can make in profits. That doesn't exist in other areas, right? So first of all, let's put them on some guardrails and say, look, at the end of the day, this isn't gonna be about you putting money in your coffers, it's about getting a good price for the American family, right? Two, to the same end, we gotta create a lot more transparency, particularly for like the Federal Employees Health Benefit Program we heard about, or other large employers, right? That they can actually see what is the fundamental, the net price I'm paying, so that they can actually track and keep and hold them accountable. But let's not forget, at the end of the day, when you look at all the money flowing through the system, the manufacturers are getting 12 times more profit than everyone else. So this is all about one major problem. Drug makers are extorting obscene prices from the American public, and it needs to end.